Welcome, everybody, here to the X-Bomb Sports Live Show. My name is Andrew Valentin, and welcome back. Yes, I know. Wow, hi. It has been a moment. Yeah, it has been, God, almost 2 months now since our last show. And, obviously we kind of tried to keep you guys up to date on that. This one kind of came as a surprise because I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to get today off, but we were able to. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. Yes, X-Bomb Sports is back. I am. Thank you. Yes, thank you, of course. I'm, of course, your host, Mr. Andrew Valentin himself. We're coming to you live here from the Illinois Media School in the O'Hare campus here in the good old Chicago, Illinois area. Again, I hope everybody's having a fantastic Friday. I hope everybody's had a great month and a half or whatever it's been, in almost 2 months now. I hope you guys have really enjoyed yourself. I know a lot has happened. I know we didn't really get a chance to talk on everything the way we wanted to. Again, scheduling conflicts, technical issues, all kinds of stuff just came up, unfortunately, for us. But we thank you guys so much for being such wonderful fans and being a part of the conversation even still. So we hope you guys will enjoy the fact that we're going to try to recap as much as we have missed and try to keep up with the current as well. We're going to try and we got current stuff really to talk about here today. A very mixed bag of stuff we got to talk about. The NFL, the NBA, and yes, we're going to talk some hockey too. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, yes, I know Scotty's happy about that. And as obviously you can see, yes, that's right. Glasses have officially come off. I figured we've been doing this now for almost 8 years, so I think it's time we finally unlocked, turn a page, and finally, I guess, became adults, is what I've been told. But yes, this is my good pearly eyes. I hope you enjoy looking at them as I enjoy looking at you as well, ladies and gentlemen. You are wonderful fans, and we love you and appreciate you. And thank you all so much for obviously helping out with the show on this one as well, because obviously this is a short show. We've got questions. We're going to answer these as quick as we possibly can. Obviously, though, me and Scotty sometimes get into some really nice discussions, and we appreciate that. You guys appreciate that. But if you want to follow us anymore, of course, you can find us on YouTube and on Twitch. That is youtube.com/xbombsports. And on the Twitch side, that is also twitch.tv/xbombsports, where you can find us at all times on Fridays, at least right now. Mondays, we are trying for, not this Monday, but we're going to try for the early mornings Friday where you can catch us. So be on the lookout for that. So Mondays and Fridays, we will be streaming again on Twitch and on YouTube. So be on the lookout for that. If you want to follow us anymore, though, we are still on Twitter, aka X, at XBomb Sports, and also on Instagram as well, at XBomb Sports. Using the social media a little bit more, of course, you can follow us too as well at facebook.com/XBomb Sports, where we have been posting a lot more. We're going to get back to posting on there as well too, ladies and gents. And of course, if you want to send any of your questions, comments, things like that, hit us up at xbsportsofficial@gmail.com. We love to hear from you guys again. Through the whole, like I said, month and a half, 2 months, whatever it's been now, we've been able to kind of converse back and forth. I've taken a lot of your questions, answered a lot of them. We had some good discussions on the back and forth and that, so I do appreciate that. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. But without further ado, so we can make sure that Scotty gets out of here on time. Scotty, my man, are you ready to get this going? Let's do this, folks. So, in a collaborative effort of all the questions that I got from people, obviously, this one was probably the most recent and the most kind of bundled one, I guess you could say. And it was just basically like, okay, so Aaron Rodgers has now been signed by the Pittsburgh Steelers. He signed a one-year contract for $13.5 million, give or take. Yeah, it's round it up or down however you want it. Yes, exactly. Some nice chunk of change guaranteed as well for him. And obviously, there's a lot of discussion about exactly what's coming next, right? So, okay, Steelers got a quarterback. So what's the next obvious step? What does Aaron Rodgers do for the Pittsburgh Steelers going forward? And I thought about this as the news came out. What does this mean for Pittsburgh? What does this mean for the Steelers? How does this impact the team? How do they get better? And I got to be honest, I don't really think this changes that much. I mean, if you look at the Vegas odds, they didn't really shift. Now, I also am under the belief in buying that, okay, Vegas probably built the odds of Aaron Rodgers already signing into the Pittsburgh Steelers ahead of time. But, okay, I'm not against the idea that potentially, nothing's really shifted. They were already there before. He now signs, and that just doesn't move the needle. Because for me, it doesn't really shift the needle at all too much personally myself. I don't know about anybody else, and obviously I've had this discussion with both Steelers fans and just non-Steelers fans as well in general. Not an abundance, but a good handful of you we've had these discussions on back and forths as to is this a good move or not. The majority overwhelming of you seem to think like I do, which is like, this is not that big a move. Because where he's at right now, I think he's better than Russell Wilson, but he's not necessarily that far above Russell Wilson. Like, it's not like he's here and Russell Wilson's there. It's kind of like, yeah, they're pretty close, I think, in terms of their skill set right now. Now, Rodgers is a very still naturally gifted quarterback. I'm not taking that away from him. But the off-field antics, the personality that he brings, you're going into an organization that does not like what's the right word and phrase to use here? They don't like when you have that personality that is going to shake the tree, if you will, right? That's going to rattle the cages. And Mike Tomlin doesn't like those kind of guys. He keeps getting rid of them, right? I mean, DK Metcalf signing there, it's a decent move, but he doesn't have a really good route tree, and he's kind of a bit of a guy that has his own personality as well. I mean, it's not like you can't have a personality. It's just he doesn't want anybody that's going to disrupt the chemistry of what they're trying to do, right? And look, on the other side of this thing too, right, on the defensive side, they've got, like, argued to say top 5, top 10 defense, right, somewhere in that range. But your best player, TJ Watt, is currently on a holdout because he wants to get paid, because he doesn't have probably much of his career left here soon. He's probably got, another good maybe 5-6 years as long as he takes care of his body, one would assume, right? I mean, he's a very talented player, but how much longer is he going to want to stick with the Pittsburgh Steelers where you keep winning, but you're not getting to the title. You're not getting to the championship. You want to win a title. You want to get a ring. You want to secure your legacy, which I think is already secured. But all of these factors combining into the Steelers, how much is Aaron Rodgers going to give them the push over to being a Super Bowl championship contending team? I don't see it. Personally, I don't see it. Scotty, I don't know about you. I don't know how you are in Aaron Rodgers. I know obviously you're a Bears fan, so I know there's maybe a little bit of kind of like against him. But for him being on the Steelers, where do you sit with how he affects Pittsburgh at this moment?
I actually have always loved Rodgers for some reason.
Okay.
And my thing with it is just the fact that this is a 9-8 team perennially.
Mm-hmm.
This can get them there, but I see more of the downside with it than I do the Super Bowl contending wise.
Okay.
I think for a team that, like I said, is 9-8 every single year and they squeak into the 7th seed, that's like their ceiling now with this move. With Russ, it was like, all right, maybe they could kind of squeak a little bit better than this, or, you know, if they were to maybe draft one of the rookies and start him day one, it's like, all right, maybe, because they're kind of always there, maybe they just do a little bit better than they did.
Sure.
With Rodgers, I could see this kind of falling off because he had, like, that time that he had with the Jets last year toward the end, he showed, like, glimpses of it, but that old, not even, like, prime Rodgers, but just the Rodgers that we know of just wasn't there as much.
Yeah.
And I feel like now it's going to be another step down, and he won't live up to what the Steelers need out of him.
No, that's a very good point. Well, listen, I mean, he's 41, going to be 42 years old, right? Like, we got to keep that in mind. He's 41, going to be 42 years old. He still is 2 years removed now from an Achilles tear, which is pretty major in and of himself, right? So add all those kind of factors together. Plus, you got to remember when Aaron Rodgers finds himself in this division, right? You're going up against Baltimore, a very good secondary. Cincinnati, so-so. The defense is kind of all over. I can't even get into that right now. Don't even get me started, Jesus. And then you've got Cleveland, which we're going to get into here too, but their secondary is arguably top 5, top 10 as well, with Denzel Ward being one of the best cornerbacks in the league. And the moment Aaron Rodgers starts throwing picks, he always goes and plays it safe, right? He's always been that guy to be like, I have to protect my QBR record or whatever the case is. I don't know why he gets that way. But it just, all the stuff about the antics of, well, I may play, I may not play, I might retire. People are sick in my family, which, listen, maybe that's true. I've just been through that. I know that can be harsh on people supporting those that are going through such awful, awful things like that with cancer and everything like that. And then we're hearing all these rumors like, oh, he actually delayed it so he can get married. It's like, okay, so then was that stuff not true or was it true? Like, this just creates more storm for Aaron Rodgers. And I just don't know where to sit with him anymore in terms of like, so is this guy a leader or is he not? Is this guy somebody that they can trust or is he not? Can Mike Tomlin get along with this guy as a quarterback? Can he trust him? Because he could trust Big Ben. You knew that they had a trust with each other. The problem was Big Ben just stopped working out and then he got older and then he got hurt more. Aaron Rodgers keeps in shape pretty well, but he doesn't always seem to be completely there. Like, what was the whole thing with Aaron Glenn, right? What did Aaron Glenn turn to him and was like, so you want to play football? And what did Aaron Rodgers say? I think so. The moment you said I think so, Aaron Glenn is out because he's a guy who's like, you're either 100% in or you're out. So I think, and Mike Tomlin is not too far off, I think, from being that same dude. And the moment Aaron Rodgers shows him like he's not 100% in, he may actually, I would not put it against him to pull Aaron Rodgers. I know crazy that sounds, but pull Aaron Rodgers and play a Mason Rudolph potentially. It sounds crazy, I know, but like, what else? Mike Tomlin wants to win. He clearly wants to try to get another title. I don't think he's just trying to get wins to be like, I have to secure my record, number of winning seasons. Like, no, I think he does want to win a Super Bowl. And I think he looked at Russ and Russell Wilson and thought, here's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. He's going to get me to that next level. Here's Aaron Rodgers. He's going to get me to that next level. But the moment that he sees that guy is going to start tearing him down, he will ultimately, I think, be able to make that shift. Now, I get it. Russell Wilson had those problems later in the season. Why didn't he pull Russell Wilson? I think he didn't really have the trust in Justin Fields maybe that he wanted to at that time. However, we know Aaron Rodgers was third banana on their list because they really wanted Matthew Stafford, and they also wanted to re-sign Justin Fields, and then it came down to, well, we couldn't get either one of those down, so now we're kind of stuck with go with the field?
I would say 4 because they really wanted something to fall to them in the draft. And it really didn't.
That's really true, too. Although they did have the option to draft some quarterbacks, but and look, I'm going to say this, Will Howard, not the worst quarterback you could put in that system on a one-read option offense. I don't think he's going to be a star, but in terms of like a backup that could possibly fit in there, maybe. Not saying you're going to win a title with him, but you never know. But at the end of the day, I don't see Aaron Rodgers being the impact quarterback you once saw in Green Bay. I don't even know if you'll see maybe the same quarterback you saw with the Jets last season who had decent stats. This is a whole new team. An offensive line that's very young, a running back that's a rookie with a guy who is decent but not a great runner, and then you have an abundance of players that, receiver-wise, his most consistent guy would be Pat Freiermuth, his tight end. I mean, yeah, he's got DK. I like DK Metcalf. It's just his route running tree is just so limited, and it's true. I know. It's just I don't like how long can you keep hope? And the other problem is too is he's getting older and he's gotten hurt more. So as much as I know he's still an impact player, the way they paid him just felt like a overcompensating of like, no, the Steelers are trying to transform. We're trying to shift, and it's like you're really not. You're just trying to get a name in there, it feels like, to try and say like, yes, no, he can still make an impact, but we're going to pay him like a top receiver when I don't even know if DK would really be classified as top 10 as a receiver, honestly. Call me crazy, I don't know, but we'll find out, I guess, when the season comes around. And Aaron is in camp, and he looks okay-ish, I guess. I don't know. We're going to see what he does. But let's move off of Aaron Rodgers, and let's get to the next collective questioning we had, which was we have the Cleveland Browns situation, because obviously we didn't get a chance to recoup on the draft here. But they did end up taking 2 quarterbacks in that draft, one of which in the 5th round came was Shedeur Sanders, which I know everybody went crazy about, right? So the question that came in collective was basically 2 questions. I kind of combined them into one. But it's, can Shedeur Sanders start and save the Browns? Now, I'm going to answer the first question quite easily. Yeah, of course he can start for the Browns. I think me and Scotty could start for the Cleveland Browns. If you can throw more than 20 yards, I think you can start for the Cleveland Browns. What options do they really have? I like Joe Flacco. I respect the guy. But he's an old reliable that really should come off the bench as like a relief pitcher, not maybe be your first call as a starter. Kenny Pickett is just another guy. And I don't think Dylan Gabriel is going to be discount Tua like a lot of people have thought. He's going to be like a Russell Wilson diamond in the rough. I don't see that with him. Could be, but I'm not getting that. So in my estimation, Shedeur is your best option because obviously Deshaun Watson hurt out for the year. And right now Sanders has played the best right so far when it comes to being in practice. He has given the best performances. So I say yes, he can start. Can he save the Cleveland Browns? I don't think you can put that on him. To save that franchise goes, I think, beyond any players on the field and anybody in the front office, really, except one, and that's on Jimmy Haslam, the owner. Because I think he has been their Achilles heel thus far. I think he is a guy who is trying to convince us he loves football, and he wanted to buy the Cleveland Browns because he loves football. But the reality, I think, is he's like Woody Johnson and David Tepper. He sees a paycheck that ultimately will always be rolling in for the TV money to put in his portfolio to make a couple $100 million more by owning this team. That I don't see him being like a Jerry Jones type of guy who I can believe Jerry Jones actually loves football and loves the Cowboys and wants them to be good. I have questions about his decisions, as we all do, of course. But nevertheless, you know that he does care about that team, and that is his business. Jimmy Haslam is like the faux version of Jerry Jones in a lot of ways. He's just, I think, in it for the money. So for Shedeur Sanders, he can start. I don't think it's fair to say that he can save the Cleveland Browns. I don't think he can, because ultimately the team that's around him right now, he has one wide receiver who just had his best year. He has a plethora of running backs that could be good, but it's running back by committee. He's got an offensive line that's very mid right now and a defense that's good and stacked with obviously Myles Garrett at the helm and Denzel Ward being there. And I think Mason Graham is going to be okay, but it sounds like he's a little bit behind the ball right now. And that's a bit of a concern, considering you took him in the top 5 of the draft. But okay, that's fine. I still think he could be a perennial Pro Bowler for years to come if he works out. And you've got a head coach who you got to give credit to. He's made the playoffs twice now with 2 different quarterbacks, and Baker Mayfield, who's a quarterback that really needs the team around him to be great, and Joe Flacco, who is just a relief pitcher that kind of came in and just didn't. He was basically the Trent Dilfer of the Cleveland Browns. In that one season, they went 12-5. Like, I don't think Scotty, I mean, what do you think for the Cleveland Browns in terms of where they're at with Shedeur Sanders? I mean, do you think he can start? And then also, where are you at with this idea that he, quote unquote, I guess, let's say, saves the Cleveland Browns? I don't know. I don't know what saves means necessarily, but what are your thoughts?
Saves is Cleveland hasn't had a consistent quarterback since they have become a franchise.
Since they moved?
Yeah.
With Otto Graham, Brian Sipe, and Bernie Kosar being their only Pro Bowlers?
Yes. I'm talking since when they became a team back in 99.
Right.
They haven't had a consistent quarterback. I think with him, your problem is I don't think you're getting much of a leader. And that's why sure, he can throw the ball. And maybe can turn and show everyone that he was maybe one of the better quarterbacks ability-wise. But for me, the leadership is always going to be a problem right now. How he presented himself that made him fall so far is a problem. There's a reason for that, and I think a lot of that has to do with his leadership. And a team like Cleveland with no one on offense, basically, get rid of Nick Chubb, and there's going to be more that's going to be leaving as well. They needed a leader in there, and I don't think he's the guy for it.
Well, no, that's totally. I mean, look, if it is true, he self-sabotaged in the draft. If that is the case, which it kind of sounds like that's really kind of become less of rumor and almost story at this point. If that is the case, you get what's coming to you. It's unfortunate, but you set yourself up in that kind of way, people are going to view you. I do think it's unfair to kind of put the sins of the father of Deion Sanders on Shedeur, but Deion's out there talking, saying, hey, my son will only go to these teams, and that's it. And like he said, he's like, a lot of the hate's coming because of my dad. And it's like, yeah, well, yeah, you're right. and your dad's been doing a lot of talking, it sounds like, almost for you, when you need to kind of be like, almost like how Caleb Williams kind of came out about Carl Williams' father with the whole book situation. Was like, my dad doesn't speak for me, right? Like Carl Williams, we know he's a talker, okay? He spilled the tea. He gave away a lot of the stuff. Nobody's angry at Caleb. Nobody should be angry at Caleb Williams because guess what? He's in Chicago. He's there. He's playing well. He's going to probably be very good next year, okay? Just hold your horses instead of trying to be like, I told you he's a diva, right? When, oh, by the way, folks, you created this area of like, I don't want to go to Chicago because you kept needling the kid over the offseason before the draft. You ever think of that? Maybe you should take a look in the mirror and say, who set up whose bad vibes around here in Chicago? Just saying. But no, I think you're right, Scotty. Like the leadership obviously is a bit of a concern. I think it's there within him because he certainly has seemed, according to what the reports are saying, he's keeping quiet, keeping his head down, doing his job. He gets excited when he's doing good stuff and the team's getting excited about it, but he's not showboating as like we saw him at Colorado and stuff, right? So perhaps it's there. I would assume that being a son of an NFL player, you would know how to conduct yourself properly around that kind of figure. But it remains to be seen because if you start having good things happen and that starts to pop off, it could become a problem, correct?
Who knows? Maybe being a first-round draft pick, like an idea of going in the first round, falling all the way to the fifth, is that humbling that he needed that would have turned around his career. Because maybe we'll look back on it and say, man, if he was drafted in the first round, it would have been a real bad mess. But now that he's drafted in the fifth, he got humbled and he needed to change how he acted. Maybe you get something like that out of him. It only time will tell with that.
No, that's an excellent point, right? Because believe you could almost say the same thing for Mr. Tom Brady, right? You go back to his draft, Chad Pennington was the only one taken in the first round. You could make an argument to say, if Tom Brady went in the first round, would he still be Tom Brady that we know him as? So, I mean, yeah, it's a good way of thinking. Maybe this is the chance to, and I'm not saying Tom Brady needed humbling, but it makes you hungrier to work. And in this case, yes, maybe this was the piece of humble pie that Shedeur Sanders needed to feast and become the quarterback that I think he can be. I think he's got the right coach. I think it just comes down, can Cleveland build the team around him?
I think a good comparison could be like a Rodgers. Rodgers was
That's a good
the second quarterback on that draft class, was probably going to go like number 2 or 3 and fell all the way to, what, 25?
24.
24.
Yeah. He should have been number 1.
Yeah, and he also probably should have been number 1 in that draft.
Easy.
But anyways, like that kind of humbling as well.
Absolutely.
Or you could even, different circumstance I understand, but even Lamar Jackson falling down to 32.
Yes.
Put the chip on his shoulder that, hey, the reason I wasn't drafted in the top 10 is because they think I can't cut it as a quarterback. Let me improve my arm year on and year out every year of his career so far, so that it can be an MVP in the future.
Absolutely.
And lead a team. It's kind of that kind of humbling is what Shedeur Sanders should take into consideration.
Yeah, no, 100%. And to add on to that, too, because you mentioned two guys, by the way, who may have got some humbling. You never heard him ever mention anything about, I'm going to make those other teams regret, did you? So, yep, there you go. That's exactly where I was going with. No, and that's the thing. Shedeur Sanders has not said a peep about, I'm going to make these teams pay. He's keeping his head down. He's working. I like that. Do not be Josh Rosen being, I'm going to make those other 9 teams pay. Because guess what? Karma, she's a real creeper. She comes up to you at the wrong moments.
To be fair, Josh Rosen just got unlucky.
He did go to a bad Cardinals team.
And then they got the number 1 pick.
Yes.
They probably didn't need to get rid of him. Was he bad as a rookie? Yes. But a lot of quarterbacks are bad as a rookie.
Fair.
It's just different when you get the number 1 overall pick after last year drafting a quarterback. And then he went to Miami.
Yes.
And then Miami got Tua the next year. So it was like,
although in fairness,
bad situation.
In fairness, as much as I love Ryan Fitzpatrick, you should have been able to beat him out.
Yeah,
if you're a top 10 pick, you should have been able to beat him out. I'm just saying. Sorry, Josh. You tried. That quarterback class is going to go down in one of the best ones maybe in history, arguably. I mean, we could get a couple Super Bowl champions out of that. Never know. So, sorry, man, you're the odd one out. You're the Ryan Leaf of the group. It's true. All right. Thank you guys so much for that question. So, let's go to our next one. This one came from a couple of people, but I just wanted to single out. I wanted to single out the guy who just messaged me this. This came from our guy Amari. Amari is from the East Coast. He is a Knicks fan. He is living though in Iowa, and he just hit me up with this, and he's like, man, what are the Knicks doing? He's like, they're right there, Eastern Conference Finals. They've got Tom Thibodeau. Now they fire him after they lose the finals. Like, what are they doing? And what's with the coaching search? He's just like, what the heck are the New York Knicks doing? First things first, Tom Thibodeau, how much blame does he deserve for the whole New York Knicks thing? He's going to get a part of it because, yes, he played his team a lot of minutes in the regular season, and then he did it again here in the playoffs. They were probably exhausted by the time the fourth quarter came, and that's why the Pacers are so good. They run deep, and when they run deep, they also can be refreshed, and when they're refreshed, they can score points. So, therefore, the Pacers were able to outpace the New York Knicks. That's just how it worked. But I don't think Tom Thibodeau was the ultimate problem with the New York Knicks. His firing happens because of who? James Dolan and Leon Rose. Your GM and your owner, the GM and coach are not getting along, even though they were friends. They're no longer getting along with each other, no longer talking. And your owner is so impatient to get a winner that even when you finally get to the Eastern Conference Finals with this team that just got formed, by the way, he is so impatient on that. He says, you know what? I gave you 5 years. Yes, you made it farther than you've ever made it before, but now fired. That's the problem with the Knicks right there. And this coaching search that they're going on, I don't get it at all. I don't get it at all. Like, you would think there are so many assistants out there. There are so many assistants out there that you could be targeting, but the Knicks, James, I'm sure it's got to be Dolan who's going, I want an established coach. Who are you targeting as everybody they have called? No one has said anything about we are firing our coaches. So far, Billy Donovan's still locked in with the Bulls. Jason Kidd's still locked in with the Mavericks. Ime Udoka is definitely not leaving the Houston Rockets. Are you crazy? Right? Hurley's not leaving UConn anytime soon. He just got a new contract. I don't understand the decision-making that's going on there, which, again, this leads to the two people who I think are most responsible for the Knicks' problems, Leon Rose at GM and James Dolan being the owner. I don't think Leon Rose is a very good general manager. Yes, he's put this team somewhat together. Of course, you can give him credit for that for sure. But, I mean, come on. Like, you got a big man down there who can't play defense. And you've got a point guard who clogs the lane for your big man as well because he wants to drive it down the middle. That's where Karl Anthony Towns is. Jalen Brunson likes to put the ball in the basket. He's not really a three. He can shoot threes and jumpers, but he'd really rather drive the ball and put it up on the rim. You didn't see that clash coming? Did you not see what happened in Philadelphia with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid? And how many other names can we name drop that have had that problem? Come on. It just... I don't. What are the Knicks doing? The New York Knicks are doing exactly what they're supposed to do. They're going after the ridiculous names. They're going to hire somebody who doesn't make sense whatsoever out of the box that they think is going to be the creative mind that's going to save this team. They will be just barely above 500, and within 2 seasons, that coach will be fired, and Leon Rose will probably be fired as well. That's what I'm predicting is happening. Scotty, the New York Knicks, I mean, what the heck are they doing? What's your take on this whole circus that seems to be the New York basketball shenanigans, I guess, is the best word for it? I don't even know anymore.
I think, okay, one, firing Tom is probably the right move. It just seems weird based off where they were.
Okay.
I think that was probably their ceiling with Tom Thibodeau, as much as we love him here for what he did back in the day and like how much he's revered around the NBA. I don't think he could get that team to the finals.
That's fair.
And win it. But for me, it's just weird because every single year they improve the team the right way. They traded off some dead pieces. They'd bring in some that filled perfect holes. But for some reason, they still had that stigma being around the same thing. And I think a lot of that maybe had to do with the coaching. The problem is the market right now, like you said, is not great. It's really not.
It's really not until people get fired.
I know I came on here and I'm loving Florida, right? But their coach would have been a perfect candidate, but he just re-signed with them.
Exactly.
You already talked about Hurley. There's other college coaches. They're all re-upping in college right now.
Yeah.
There's really no one even on the verge of leaving.
No, not that I can
Not
even
of
think
the
of.
big names.
No.
Or the big programs.
Yes.
There's not really anyone. NBA team-wise, everyone's been getting rid of their coaches over the last 2 years. The Knicks are like a season too late to it if they wanted to get some of the top names on the market.
Yeah.
It's just a tough – it just feels like wrong place, wrong time to get rid of them. Like they waited a little too long to do this. If maybe they did it last year, there would have been a name on the market for them to go get. This year, it's just not there. And it's tough that they could even get back to where they were with some of the names they're thinking about.
Yeah. Well, in terms of like with Thibs, I mean, you're right. I mean, because add on the fact that you kind of ran the team, quote unquote, into the ground, if you will, right? A lot of minutes. His coaching decision in the playoffs have never been great, right? I mean, I think his record is almost identical to that of what he had in Chicago, I think, in New York, if I'm not mistaken, with, 4 playoff appearances and 1 Eastern Conference final and over 110 wins or something like that. Like, I think it's almost identical in so many ways. So I understand it. I still personally don't think he was the biggest issue. I don't think he needed to be fired, but I agree with you. He seems to have a limit on how far you can take it. But that is my biggest thing. Who are you going to get that's going to be able to shift the magnitude of this team to the next degree? Because obviously there's Taylor Jenkins and Mike Malone, 2 guys who had winning records with their teams before they got fired, right? But I feel like Mike Malone in New York is not really going to work and not getting along with Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. Taylor Jenkins, I think, might fit maybe a little bit better. But you have you have to have some thick skin and a strong backbone to work in New York as the Knicks head coach. Anybody who's taken that job since the days of the 90s, I would say, has really not been able to manage, the pressures of having that coaching job. It's kind of like when you're the head coach of the Lakers or anything like that too, or the Celtics. There's so much pressure on you. You have to be able to handle it. So I don't know. I don't see anybody that could, unless the only guy I think that could possibly, and I'm saying could possibly, and it's not going to happen because he's not leaving, but it would have to be Eric Spoelstra. He's the only guy that could fit the mold there, that could be able to be like, we're tearing it down, we're fixing the team, he's the only one. No, not even that. It's just a matter of, tear down is maybe the wrong word, but yes, put them into shape, reconfigure things, restructure, whatever you want to say. It's not tear down is the wrong word, but he's the only one I think that could step in there as a coach and say, I got this. Where Leon Rose can be very hands-off, do what you have to do with contracts and players and all that kind of stuff. Just draft who you need to draft. I got this team, whatever it is, and we're good, right? But you're not going to get him. He's not going to leave Miami. He's too much of an iconic figure there. And, oh, by the way, Miami still might land some prospects because there's a good chance that they could get Giannis if they make the right trade. And there's a good shot, too, they could also possibly get a trade for Kevin Durant. And it's not like one or the other. It's a potential to get both. Like, he's not leaving. So the Knicks are going to have to go shopping, find some dude in Europe or find some guy in Yugoslavia or, like Croatia or whatever it is, and you're going to have to do some shopping. You're going to have to try and find the right guy, and they're probably not. And he's going to lose games, or he's going to be just mid enough to get them into the play-in tournament, and then he's getting fired, and then Leon Rose is getting fired, and James Dolan gets to do this whole thing all over again. Because that's what the New York Knicks do. It's almost like a guarantee. I almost feel like it's a guarantee. Seriously. Oh, my God. They should be one of the premier franchises in the NBA with the Celtics and the Lakers, and the Bulls should be there with them too. But, yeah, we'll get to them with, their offseason. I may need some migraine pills. Just saying. But they should be at the top. And they were this year. They had a great season, but it never felt like they were really at the top. It always felt like they were just a level or two underneath where they should be. And the Pacers proved that. And
I'm going to say one more thing.
Please.
And it's not because I'm a Bucks fan I'm saying this.
No.
Giannis is not saving your team. He's really not. And that's not to downgrade Giannis for being a great player. He's not the answer to all of the Knicks' problems.
Not anymore. If you would have kept Thibs, he would have probably been a better answer because he gives you that defense that Thibs wants.
Yes. But now, you bring him in, it's not because he's not a great player. He's one of the best players in the NBA.
Yes.
Not taking him down at all. There is no way he answers every single question about the Knicks and puts them over the top. He really doesn't.
And I don't think
it's a full team thing.
No.
Not a one superstar thing.
Yeah, no. I don't know. Also, I don't know how much he's going to. I think he could fit with New York. Don't get me wrong. But I think there's also does him in New York have that mesh? Kind of, but I think he meshes better with, I don't want to say small market, but Miami's not a big basketball market. He goes there, though. I think it fits like a glove. Staying in Milwaukee fits like a glove. Going to a team, a Golden State even, he definitely fits like a glove there for sure. It's just those markets that aren't necessarily big and broad. Yes, Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, Boston. If you went to any four of those teams, they're automatically better. They're a playoff team for sure. But are they necessarily becoming a championship roster? That's still kind of a hard one to push on. Other than the Lakers.
Could you put Luka with Giannis and LeBron's going to be on the team for one more year?
Yes.
That team is going to win the championship, should steamroll.
They should.
But of the other big markets, it just, again, not because he's a bad player.
Yeah.
He's one of the best. It just doesn't mesh well. It doesn't feel right.
Yes, it's putting all your eggs in one basket for a lot of those teams, really, when you can't really do that with those. They need so much more. I mean, the Knicks have a lot, don't get me wrong, but what you'd have to give up for Giannis, in particular with what the Bucks would want, because, hey, we've been lacking defense. What do we need? We need defense.
Yeah, I mean, what are you getting? What are you trading?
You're probably giving. I'm assuming you're probably either trading away Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby.
You're trading one of them.
One of them, if not,
a plethora of first-round picks that you need to bring in bench players
and pick swaps. I mean, you're doing a lot of you're getting rid of a lot of the talent that's there and sacrificing it for one player in the hopes that he's going to save it. And I can't imagine he and Karl Anthony Towns existing. I can't see that coexist. I still don't think it coexisted well with him and Rudy Gobert. So I don't think it's going to coexist again with those two together because they both got to be down in the blocks.
No, if you're the Knicks, you're looking at a Cat, a Bridges, or an Anunoby, and
something.
A plethora of first-round picks, and probably someone else is thrown in there too.
Yeah,
that's a serviceable player.
Exactly.
I mean, that is not good optics. Just
a Josh Hart or something.
Yeah.
I know they wouldn't want to give him up, but I know like they would want like, hey, you're getting a top 5 player. We need some primo stuff back because I'm sorry, Karl Anthony Towns. You can try and he's an all-star, but I can't be sold that he's going to be like a championship leader. He's just a piece. He's not the guy. Sorry. Just I don't see it. All right, well, thank you so much for the question, guys. We appreciate it. The next one we've got, this one I wasn't sure how this would go over, but I said, you know what, let's talk about this real quick. So NBA Finals are going on right now. Pacers are up 2-1 on the series. Tonight they play Game 4. It has been an exciting one, I think. If you are a sports fan and an NBA fan to some degree, I have enjoyed watching these finals. I've really loved watching the games. But I know there's a lot of people that have certainly been complaining about the way the games have been played and everything. So the question came in from an abundance on how are you feeling about the NBA Finals thus far in terms of its watchability and the excitement of the games? Because, yes, if you haven't seen, the statistics came out for Game 1. I believe it was just under 9 million people watched. It's one of the lowest watched NBA finals games in the history of the game, I think in the last few years or so, if not in a long time. I get all of that. But you do understand the NBA just got $76 billion and they don't really care about TV ratings right now, right? Like, they just got their money. They don't really care about the TV ratings. And also, they don't really care about the TV ratings in general because everything's on streaming now. And I would argue to say that these finals, for everybody, I think you have to kind of pick and choose what side you fall on with this. Because if you're somebody, I grew up in the time of this kind of old school basketball, I guess if you want to describe it that way, drive to the basket, pull up jumpers, that kind of stuff, physical, very, very push and shove kind of basketball being played. Like, this was the kind of game that was kind of still existing when I came up watching sports in the mid to late 2000s, right? And then obviously Steph came around and made the three-pointer great. And it's not that three-pointers haven't been made in these games. It's just not been the dominant shot in this series, right? That's not how these two teams play each other. They play very similar games with deep benches that play the mid-range, jump shot, drive the ball to the basket, play solid defense. That's kind of the way these two teams are playing each other. And I know for a lot of people that are particularly younger, and I'm not singling, it's not like I'm singling Scotty out. I'm not. I promise you I'm not. I just know there's a lot of younger viewers that are kind of like having mixed reviews on it because it's like, yeah, there's been some excitement, but it's like, we're not seeing big shots being taken. It's like, well, maybe not from your perspective, but from my perspective, I don't know, Tyrese Halliburton's big shot in Game 1 was pretty big, I would say. Would it not be? I mean, I think it kind of changes depending upon when you grew up watching basketball, how you enjoy basketball. Do you enjoy basketball, or are you watching this for another benefit, i.e., how many people are watching this for the sake of saying, I love the NBA Finals, and how many people are watching because they said, I put money on this game? Because I watched Game 2 at a bar that a friend of mine works at, or a brewery that a friend of mine works at, and I can tell you, while I was eating food and just chit-chatting with my friend every once in a while, the people around me, the guys mostly around me, all of them were staring at their phone, and I could see bets. They were all placing bets. They were all looking to see if their bets hit. So to me, I am having fun with these finals because I find the enjoyment of watching these two teams play. I get it, though, right? We ask for parity, but when parity finally hits, we know that superstars still sell. That big brands still sell, right? Had the Lakers been in this one, the viewership would be skyrocketing through the roof, no doubt. But unfortunately, you've got OKC and Indiana, who are two formidable opponents, but for a lot of people, I'm sure they're going, oh, this is so boring. But that's because you're finding enjoyment in the way that, in a different way that the game is played than maybe they play it. I don't know, Scotty. You're younger than me. You have a little bit of a different perspective. Do you find these NBA Finals enjoyable, or are you somebody who is maybe not enjoying them as much? Are you finding enjoyment maybe in another way? Because you are of age now to bet. You are 21. So are you finding enjoyment in that as well, or is it in the game? I mean, where are you at with the NBA Finals in your feelings?
So I'm gonna be honest. The only way that I've watched the NBA Finals is because I'm doing sports pages with Nick.
Okay.
I have not sat down and wanted to watch one of these games. And it's not because I don't enjoy either of them. It's just basketball is falling off with me. Viewing-wise, I think it's important to add. There's two things that are very important with this series. One, it's Oklahoma City versus Indiana. Mm-hmm. No big market there.
No.
Two diehard fan bases. Yes,
absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
Both fan bases are on the upper echelon of diehard fan bases.
There's some Bills Mafia level of fandom in there, and you got give them credit because that's what can help build you up. Because the Bills now are kind of looking like their market's starting to grow.
Yeah.
So maybe.
And there's no big market in there.
No.
There's no recognizable team that everyone's going to get behind. I will say, coming out of this, stars are being put on a very good pedestal.
Yes.
Pascal Siakam is getting a lot of recognition. Halliburton is going crazy and getting so much recognition. He's got one of the best nicknames I've ever seen in basketball. SGA, everyone hates the way he plays, but you got to admit it's fantastic, and he gets his team in the best opportunities. Chet Holmgren, this is the worst he's going to play. And think about how good he is.
Mm-hmm. He's only in year 2.
Yeah. But there's another thing about this. The MLB ratings are up.
Yes.
Way more than they expected. Because people are turning off basketball and going to watch baseball. That's crazy to say. Because look at where baseball was a couple of years ago. Everyone was turning off baseball.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're getting the opposite. You know what else is up? Hockey.
True.
Hockey's up.
Yes, it is.
It's not crazy. Like, it is below what they expected for the Stanley Cup Finals. I think a lot of that has to do with it's because Florida's in there. They saw them. This is the same matchup as last year. Mm-hmm. Canada's not as behind Edmonton as they were last year.
Yes, which is a shame.
But it is
we'll
up.
get to that.
But it's up.
Yes.
It's lower than expected, but it's up compared to previous years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has a lot to do with it. There's other sports that are going out there that are more entertaining to watch and putting on consistently good products rather than watching a 20-point blowout in the conference finals and leading into the NBA finals. Now, it sucks because this has been a great series so far. But it's just not that recognize the value of the sport right now, and a lot of that has to do with how the teams play and how the overall NBA presents itself now. You mentioned it yourself. They don't care about TV ratings anymore.
No.
They really don't.
They really don't.
And they don't show anything that makes you believe that.
Yeah.
The commentary team seems stale other than Mike Green. It's a little different.
Mike Green still brings it, baby.
He's a little different. But everyone else, it's very stale. The ESPN post-game and pre-game and halftime is not anything great either. When on the NHL, Paul Bissonnette and Wayne Gretzky are absolutely killing it.
Oh, they're doing great.
Like, compare to every other sport, the NBA is showing that they don't care as much anymore. And it's showing in their product. And I think people are starting to recognize that. And also, just the complete divide between, like you said, there's a difference between you watching it and me watching it. But there's a massive difference between the players now and the players of old. And they just hate the game that is now. And there's so many people that will stick by those guys, and they don't even want to watch the game now. So there's that stigma with it as well, how much older players absolutely hate the game now.
Well,
which in any other sport does not exist.
No, yeah.
There is no other sport that exists.
Yeah. No,
except basketball.
No, absolutely. I mean, bravo to you, Scotty. Well said. Well spoken there. Give it for Scotty, everybody. Well said there. No, I mean, you hit it right on the nail, right on the head there. I mean, there is so much of a divide in terms of how the game is played and how it's viewed now. And like you said, though, baseball, hockey, the NHL, MLB, for the last 5 years, it's been shown now because of the rule changes, because of changes to their all-star game sets, because of all this stuff, the rising force of their names. And now I will say the NHL's done they're not perfect. They could do so much better, but they're doing a much better job than they have in the past of promoting their top athletes. They have been seeing an uptick more and more and more in their watch, where the NBA, because of a lot of the disinterest, the load management stuff, the way the game is played and how people view it and all that stuff, it is just a melting pot of like, well, why would if you don't care, then why do I care, right? It's one of those things where I will say, in all honesty, I've watched more Bulls games through YouTube highlights than I have watching them actual games. Mind you this, I couldn't watch the games at all if I wanted to. They did fix it. However, I cut my cable cord. So at the same time, it's like I probably wouldn't have watched it on TV anyways, because I am mostly on my laptop for work anyways, as it is, doing everything that I have to do with editing and all that stuff. So if I did want it on, I would probably post it on anyways for my laptop. So I get it. I understand it. I know that people are going to fluctuate back and forth between, I'll watch it, probably won't, this, that, the other. But there is a flurry of reasons why. But at the end of the day, yes, if the NBA does not show any care of losing viewership, then why should we? I mean, Adam Silver said it when he was questioned about the viewership. This was months ago. He was asked about, what do you think about the viewership and everything and how the NBA is doing and stuff. And he goes, well, I know this. We got the highest social media followers of any league out there. And everyone's like, that's such a strange thing to say. But I think he understands where the league is at right now. He understands that, hey, look, we're going to more streaming sites. People are watching our games more so on the internet through clips and highlight videos and things like that. So it's one of those things like, I can't beat them, so we're just going to join them. And guess what? The media out there paid $76 billion to keep the NBA. Now, because of that, I don't know if MLB and NHL will ever catch the NBA, unfortunately. But this is a point now where if the NBA continues to have these kind of results with fans, you could see the MLB and NHL at least start making higher rises, which ultimately then leads to better revenue, better game systems. You see expansion happening with them because, of course, we've been hearing a lot about expansion for for the NHL and the MLB now. So there's a there's a lot that's going to entail on this. So I'm enjoying the NBA Finals. I'm hoping my prediction is if the Pacers win tonight, they win it in 6. Okay? If OKC wins this, I'm saying Pacers in 7. But I'm enjoying the finals. If you're not, I understand it. If you're not really watching, I get it. If you're watching it but you're not really entertained by it, I get it. I think there is something there for everybody. You just have to find it. That's the ultimate thing. That's the ultimate thing. You either like it, you don't, and guess what? There's like a million other things you can watch. You can watch the U.S. Open right now and watch everybody that's cursing as they're playing that course. That we've been watching it for a while here now. That was rough. That was really rough to watch because you look at the top 10 names, I recognize maybe a handful of them. I really only follow maybe one guy on there, Hovland. That's it. Otherwise, you could point to those guys and I go, yeah, no, I probably met him in the grocery store. I probably saw him at Starbucks. Who knows?
I think Xander's the only one that's pushing him up. He's the only one that's like getting up in the top 10 right now. Everyone else is struggling.
Yeah, it is. It's if you don't know, the U.S. Open, this is a rough one for you folks out there. If you don't know, 5 inches is measured on the rough. That's the height of the grass. Your ball goes in. Like I don't know how many videos we watched on Monday. We were watching the ball just get dropped in there. It disappears. You're not going to find it.
There's over 60 bunkers on 18 holes. And they added more over the course of the last couple of years.
I quit. I pick up my ball and just go. Seriously. I would just be like, no, you know what? I'm good. Keep the money. I didn't even make the cut. Why bother? I'll cut the grass. How about that? That's what I'll do. Oh, my God. Yes, but thank you guys so much for the questions. We appreciate that. One last one, and then we are going to get out of here. This came from our guy, Kyle. He is a Canadian man himself, and he wanted to ask us this question. In fact, he's been begging me to ask this question. So I thought, I got my man Scotty here. I knew he would want to chime in on this. So he asked me, he said, we've got the Panthers taking on the Oilers here for another time. He said, and right now we are tied at 2-2. Do you think this could end up being a classic that goes to 7 games, that we see a phenomenal outcome of this one that helps, and I'm going to use this word, perpetuate, he said grow, but I say perpetuate, the NHL to new heights? Scotty, do you want to start this one off? I would love to get you to start this off, my amigo. Please. Okay, I will start this one off. I know you could. I can
sit here and boast all about it, but this is your show. I'll get your opinion.
I enjoyed last year. I enjoyed watching it last year. This year, though, I find myself, and maybe it's because of the fact that I've watched the NBA Finals games. I've watched them all, but I also find myself now becoming, drawn to watching the NHL, the Stanley Cup Finals too. And I think I'm more transfixed on this Stanley Cup Finals than I was last year, just because it is a rematch, and we've now seen Edmonton, who, yes, have gotten away by the skin of their teeth, you could argue, but have still been able to find a way to equalize it, all thanks to Mr. Leon Draisaitl coming up with the biggest goal that you could find right now. I mean, right now, Stanley Cup MVP for sure in my book, but you're sitting at 2-2. I feel like this is one that does go the stretch to 7 games. I would love to see Edmonton get it. Do not get me wrong. Florida does seem to be the overpowering match, though. But nevertheless, I think there is a good chance that this could be a classic. Like this could be one that we look back on and go, man, Florida Edmonton, this was one where it was not just the first game and not just this second matchup, but it's one where they're back again and back again potentially. There just seems to be that kind of fix with these two teams where it's like the determination is there to win that cup, to win that, to be champions. I know Edmonton wants it because listen, Draisaitl wants to be a champion, and Connor McDavid wants to bring that trophy home. You know he does. He wants to put his name amongst the best in the NHL history books, which, by the way, I think he already is by my account. But this just helps solidify his position as one of the best. I have to say, I think it is a classic. I think it's one that does help push the NHL, like we kind of just talked about. It's on the rise. This just kind of, I think, just puts them up to another level where it's like, man, wasn't that a good series? Wasn't that a credible matchup? The Americans versus the Canadians, one that is supposed to be built on superpower money, no state income tax. That's why everybody wants to be there, right? And the other is Edmonton Oilers and, building their team from the inside and, not all these guys just collectively, they just built them up and everything, and they got the superstar, and the economy there is just, it's there. The storytelling is there. So I honestly, I feel like it could be a classic. It could be something that puts the NHL, I think, to another level potentially. How high, that's up for the fans to push in terms of watching. But I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I feel like it could go a classic. I've enjoyed these 4 games tremendously. The way they came back in this last game for Game 4 for Edmonton, that incredible. Absolutely incredible. Scotty, please, my man.
I'm going to start with the one thing you said just really quick, the thing about the no state income tax. I hate Gary Bettman. I think he's done terrible with the NHL.
Oh, I agree.
As of recently,
arguably they were the worst commissioner.
But an absolute win was when he said no one cared until they started winning.
Yeah,
no one cared.
Oh, yeah.
This is, I think, just quick rundown of the series.
Yeah.
Game 1, 7 goals overtime. That's a great game.
Absolutely. That's a great way to kick off a series, and that's why it did better numbers than the NBA by miles.
Game 2, 9 goals, double overtime. Sure, staying up late, not great, but still a great finish.
I stayed up for the whole thing.
7 goals in Game 3, 9 goals in Game 4 in overtime. How are you not going to watch that? How are you not going to watch that?
You wanted more scoring. You've got more scoring.
Mm-hmm.
This is what everybody I've been hearing about for a long time that was not the true hockey fan, right? The common hockey fan or the common sports fan. There's not a lot of goals being scored. It always goes to OT or it's all that stuff. It's 1-0, 2-0, 2-1. Well, now you're getting these giant numbers.
You have full-on in this series. You have full-on line brawls, multiple goals scored, fastest pace I've seen in the Stanley Cup final, even compared to last year. They're at a faster pace than they were last year.
Yes, 100% they're quicker.
You have 2 fan bases that are hilarious. You have one in Florida who throws rats on the ice. And they threw a live rat the other day, and it caused a lot of problems because there's a huge streak of red on the ice.
Can I just say, where do you find, did you get that at home? Did you buy that? Did you just find it in the street? Did you find it in the arena? Where did you get the and how long have you been holding on to that? I have so many, it brought up so many questions for me.
And then, do you know where that started?
I'm familiar with I'm not sure where it started.
When they first made their first Stanley Cup, their goalie killed a rat in the locker room, and the story leaked out.
Yes, I heard something about
So then they would throw toy rats on the
Got
the
it,
ice.
okay.
So every time they're in the playoffs now, they just do that.
It's just the real one.
And then you have Edmonton.
Yes.
That's just the 2 best players in the NHL. It's a contrast of 2 teams. Florida is the complete team powerhouse.
Yes.
One of the best coaches in the NHL. The
Without
best
a doubt.
Teams they can roll all 4 lines, shorten it to 3, and it's even better. Their defense is fantastic. They brought on Seth Jones at the lowest they could and just turned him into the player that he used to be. Same player he basically was in Chicago. He just had way too much money. Bring him down a couple million, and he's phenomenal.
It's amazing what happens when you get a pay cut.
Bobrovsky's on the best he's played in a long time. This is the best he's played since he left
looks
Columbus.
Rejuvenated.
Then on the other side, you have Edmonton, who just La Bamba and Pink Pony Club are just being played nonstop. And then you have 2 of the best players in the NHL. Draisaitl should have won MVP. Shouldn't have been Connor Hellebuyck. It should have been Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah.
Connor McDavid is trying to pull off a Sidney Crosby and be the face. He is the face of the NHL, but he wants to be on that pace up with Sid.
Oh, absolutely. He wants to be on the pedestal.
And not only that, the series is fantastic. You know what they have? Because, sorry, TNT figured it out, that the post-game intermission / halftime and pregame matters.
Yeah.
Paul Bissonnette is one of the funniest guys out there in media right now.
I mean, he's great.
Wayne Gretzky pulling the greatest player of all time is something that not a lot of other networks could do.
No.
And he gets pulled out there, and he's loving being out there.
And he's actually there, unlike we've heard with the Michael Jordan thing or whatever it is, where it's like he is like a specialist or something like that. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. Something
and then,
like that.
oh, yeah, by the way, they just brought on Jaromir Jagr yesterday during the game, and he was absolutely loving it.
Yeah.
I mean, even ESPN NHL, they figured it out. PK is great, and they bring on great people there, but the TNT figured it out for the NHL. As a complete product, the NHL is figuring out what they need to do over the last couple of years. Same with NBA, because online, they're doing great, with creators and putting their social medias out there. They're doing great with that. But the difference is the NHL is putting on a great on-ice product.
Yes.
Where they care about the on-ice product so much more. And yes, the storylines of this series, like I said, are fantastic. It is great to have this for the NHL. And I don't want to harp on the NBA, but you don't hear the NBA thinking about expanding. Atlanta's getting a team at the end, 2027, I think they're aiming for.
Yeah, that's the
they're just going to move to Canada in 15 years. But anyways,
jeez, a harsh, don't you think?
No.
Can't just put the Hartford Whalers back there or something? Come on.
Nope. They can't play in the mall anymore. But this is exactly what the NHL needed. I don't know what changed in Gary Bettman over the course of the years, but the way he's building the NHL right now is so much better. And it's showing in the product, it's showing on ratings, and it's great. No, it's really great to see. He's just got to get some of the teams all wrapped. Like, he can't have these bottom feeders anymore. Like, the Sharks, Sabres, Blackhawks, they got to figure it out. They can't be on the bottom every single year.
Yeah, well, especially with Chicago, you've got arguably the next diamond in the rough if you can get him there, and Connor Bedard is in Chicago. I mean, that is a prized gem that you want to be right there with guys like Connor McDavid and obviously Sidney Crosby and all these others who are top of the names in the game. And look, people respect it. It's just like, yeah, but Chicago's always crap at the end of the year. Like they've yet to crawl the hope, but we'll see. They've got young talent. They're building up. They got a top pick in this year's draft. They've got some money to spend. There's some guys maybe in Toronto that might be leaving. We'll see. There's a lot of talk about what the Blackhawks can do, but it just like you talk about like with TNT, right? NBA on TNT, without a doubt for me, was always a saving grace for the NBA because of the commentary that you got from those guys. What the NHL has from their guys at TNT has absolutely been a part of that too for the NHL. It adds another element to the game. Now, obviously, NBA on TNT we are going to miss them because now they're moving to ESPN, and there's a lot of concern about what ESPN may or may not do there, right? I heard ESPN. I had heard ESPN. Maybe I'm mistaken on that. Because I had heard Bill Simmons was the one that was like, I am so scared that ESPN's going to put their fingers and their hands in what makes NBA on TNT so good and try and muck it up. Because here's the thing, you got four of the best personalities, I think, in sports talk on a table, having fun with each other in the NBA, in Barkley, in Shaq, in Johnson, and in Smith, right? Don't mess it up. It's not that hard. But the NHL has answered back with some incredible and phenomenal individuals that can add their knowledge and element to the game, can add wit and humor to it as well, and be that counterbalance to what NBA on TNT has been through the NHL, and adding that extra push. And like you said, too, more goals being scored. You've got the storyline of these two teams and how they've been built differently, how their stars are trying to establish themselves, how they're trying to assert their dominance and maybe become a dynasty in one way or the other. This feels like something that could be there for a long time. And while yes, hockey is still very regional, this is the kind of thing that can ultimately push it to a more national level where you've got people in Kansas and people in Idaho and everything watching instead of the usual suspects of being just those hockey regional areas and, of course, Canada, right? This is where the game can expand more and you can see more viewership on the national level and then also on the international level too, because obviously you've got guys who come from all over the world on these teams. But then you're also able to expand into those other regions in the world that maybe have never even seen ice, right? And all of a sudden they're like, a hockey game? I'm watching this? We're in South Africa or wherever, it's something like that. I'm in the Canary Islands watching a hockey game. It's something like that you're just like experiencing this whole new thing. And now you've got new fans. And now you've got a new avenue potentially for new hockey players potentially that could come through and help change the game. Like that kind of stuff is what helps the game grow and puts them to another level, which is what the NHL and why I've never liked Bettman, because he's always felt so, we need to keep it here, we need to keep it. No, expand, grow, be bigger, be better, be louder, be more intense if you need to, something.
I think that there's a difference with the way he's worked in the past. I agree with you, expanding out more, doing the Swedish series and stuff in Germany.
Yes,
has been fantastic. But more importantly, is kind of along what he's always wanted to do is grow the game in the United States. It's starting to work now, but it's working differently than how he envisioned it. The AHL is more popular than it's ever been.
That's true.
The ECHL has been more popular than it ever has been, and they're expanding. And they are like a third tier of these teams, but now they're all starting to get affiliated. Mm-hmm. And some of those teams are in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
I mean, you have teams in
true.
Idaho, Tulsa, Indiana, the places that don't have hockey there, but they're selling out there.
Yeah.
I got a buddy that goes downstate to ISU, but he can't make it to Blackhawks games. He's a little bit too far to go to St. Louis games, and also he doesn't like St. Louis. But you know what? He goes to the local ECHL game there because it's better to watch it down there. You're getting that kind of reach in America, which has been Gary Bettman's plan all along, Americanizing hockey to his downfall, moving teams from Canada. It was his problem then. And also hitting a new market of Utah, which obviously we all hated the fact that Arizona was going to leave. But without that caveat, the Utah team is working.
Yeah.
It is showing so far that it's working. They're a fun team. The fans are coming out. Their owner is already one of the best owners in the NHL with how he treats his fans.
Absolutely.
It's incredible to see.
Yes.
Sick name. The Mammoth is great. Fan voted. Everyone wanted
I am getting a jersey. I've already said.
Everything is working for the NHL right now, expanding the way Gary Bettman envisioned it, of growing the game in America. And that is something that he just needed to pivot the way he thought of. He thought if I just bring a couple teams from Canada to America, it'd work. But he's realizing that it's different now. You got to get the markets there. And he's got the markets there. That's why I do think at some point Arizona will come back, because the market started showing up there. They just need a little bit better of a team. Same thing with you. Everyone was questioning the Utah market, the Vegas market, even the Seattle market. Seattle's a diehard fan base. You give them a team and they'll support it no matter what the sport is. But like Vegas and Utah, a lot of people questioned it, moving a team there. But Vegas, they've never not had a sold-out game, and they've always been contending. Utah, their first year was fantastic for a quote-unquote expansion team. So they're growing the game the right way. You just got to keep going on this. And by the way, have not mentioned the Four Nations tournament at all with this. Yeah. This is all without the Four Nations tournament that it's growing. And yes, that did so much for the popularity of it, But that's a caveat to it now because the NHL is growing the game, could grow the game without that tournament now.
Yeah. No. Again, Scotty just spitting straight facts again for everybody out there. Honestly, this is the direction that the hockey is now taking, just in general, has really just seen a growth in the sport. And look, it still has a long ways to go. There's no doubt. And unfortunately, to catch the NFL and to catch the NBA, I'm not saying it's impossible. Drastic things need to happen for those leagues, for the NHL to catch up. But here's the thing. I don't think the NHL needs to worry about trying to play catch up with those leagues because the way that they're establishing themselves thus far, I think, is enough to sustain itself for the longevity of its success and survival and its ultimate, like we've been saying here, growth and expansion. It is crucial that this game continue to go like it has. And like you said, the Phoenix fans, whilst not maybe happy with the ownership that was previously there with the Coyotes, certainly were trying to show like, hey, we want them here. Unfortunately, the ownership there was just like, well, we're going to make a shift. But there's clearly a fan base is there. There was clearly one in Seattle. There was clearly one there in Vegas, and they've been showing up for their teams. And, I mean, both of them have had, the Knights have a cup, and the Kraken are not, they haven't been the worst team in the league. So you have to imagine that this game is going to continue to grow, and it's going to continue to find different levels of success that maybe, again, they're not going to measure up to the other leagues in the United States. But nevertheless, they can still find sturdy, strong enough legs to build a foundation on, build their house on, and make it look nice because even though it may not be as big as the other houses out there, it's still a livable situation. It's still one that you can go on and go, this is nice. I like this. This is enjoyable. This series, I think, can be that kind of, not even just a starting point, but like a notch, if you will, on the way up to that next kind of like, okay, we've hit this point, now we go on to the next one, and then we go to the next one. It's that gradual growth in the game that you want to continue to see. And it's something that here on this show, we have talked a lot about on the fact that hockey's had problems with being a very regional adopted sport coming from Canada. There's not a lot of ice rinks, unfortunately, in a lot of places that have been built. But now you can see there is a lot more growth and money and time and energy being put into these games. The expansion of, it going to outside of the usual, into other minorities and other countries and other teams being built nationally. It's giving a wider and broader audience that we never, I think, thought could have existed in hockey, and it is helping the game get to these new levels on the national level, on the international level, and ultimately for the NHL, for what these Stanley Cup Finals are proving. This is your launch point. This is your moment to finally say, okay, the NBA is not doing too hot. The MLB, they're in the midst of their season, but we're in our Stanley Cup Finals. And the NFL is still far off from here. This is our moment. I love it. I'm not a diehard hockey fan. I'm really not. I support my New Jersey Devils. Sorry. Sorry. But this is the thing, is just even still, I find a way to be able to enjoy the game. I got a chance to go to a Blackhawks game recently to go watch them play the Flyers in a game where they went down. They were down like 3-2 at one point. They ended up coming back and winning it 7-4. I mean, it was great. And then we went out and we were partying with people that were celebrating for the game. So no matter what, you can always find the intricacies of how to have fun within the game of hockey, be it whether you are a diehard hockey fan or just a nonchalant sports fan in just your regular realm. So
last thing I'll say,
please,
because there's a let me get there. There's a connection.
Yeah.
Recently started up the new women's softball league, right?
That is correct.
The reason why you're able to push for that is because over the course of the last couple of years, the availability of watching college softball has been going up. It's been showing more prominently.
Absolutely.
You know what else has been going up more prominently? The NHL. Their deal with the ESPN, now that basically every single game is shown on ESPN Plus, local network, obviously when they go on TNT, you can't watch the game. But
Right.
As their local networks and all their ESPN are easily accessible with ESPN Plus, and I mean, a lot of people are ending up getting ESPN Plus with how much it offers. Also with that, look at the MLB. Blackout markets everywhere. It's hard to watch a lot of games.
Yeah.
NBA, very hard to watch a lot of games. NFL's a little different because they got the national media thing and they're only on Sundays. But the NHL's doing it right. They're making it more easier to just randomly turn on the San Jose Sharks versus the Columbus Blue Jackets
Right.
if you live in Idaho or Montana. They're making it very easy to watch stuff like that. The only difference is the blackout market of the Chicago Blackhawks. That sucks. But
Yes.
everyone else is basically just, they don't have many TV problems. I mean, obviously the Bally Sports one turning into FanDuel saved a lot of it.
Yes.
You know, that you're able to watch a lot of teams, but like baseball, it's a little different because half of the West market is all on MLB TV.
Yes, that is
It's
correct.
harder to watch those West Coast games. But for hockey, basically every single game is available. I think they said it's over 400 out-of-market games are available to NHL fans over the course of the year.
That's crazy.
That's how you grow the game. Just being able to find different stars on different teams.
Honestly, there's so many points to it that that can connect back to how this can continue to go forward. And again, I'm not the biggest hockey fan, but I champion any sport to grow. I love the fact that we are now seeing professional softball starting to come back with this new league as college softball's been taking off. I love that. I think with the help of what the MLB has seen in growth, we now see an uptick in college baseball, something I've been watching for years, and I've only now recently started seeing more on television. I love watching LSU, but I sometimes had to go other places to watch them. Now I can almost turn on the TV not the TV necessarily because I cut the cord, but I can go on ESPN and be like, I want to go watch a college baseball game. Like, I'm going to be watching the College World Series this year, regardless of LSU or not. I am intrigued to see what happens on that, and it's because they have been allowed, like you said, Scotty, to be able to find a way to get more viewers out there. There is growth. There's expansion. Putting more eyes on the sport will grow the game. It can be said about anything. And that, I mean, hell, one of our favorite sports me and Scotty love to talk about is soccer. You put more eyes on the game of soccer, on the game of football, what's going to happen? You're going to get more people interested in watching play football. How do you think the Chicago FC is somehow getting themselves $650 million new stadium?
See, and this is the thing. Other leagues can learn from this. Apple TV helped the MLS.
Yes.
ESPN Plus helped the NHL.
Yes.
Paramount Plus helped the Champions League, Europa League, Conference League, Scottish Premier League, and the Serie A.
Yes, it did.
ESPN Plus helped La Liga.
Yes, it
ESPN
did.
Plus helped the Bundesliga. And then obviously just the NBC market helped the Premier League, but that's been a thing for a lot longer than a lot of these newer teams.
They've had that connection for years.
They've had that connection for years.
Yeah.
But the streaming ability of it is helping the NHL grow and all these other leagues. And does the MLB really need to grow? Not really. They just need to get their viewership at. The NBA doesn't really need to grow, but they need to get their viewership up. That's just how you get your viewership up, and with that, you're going to see growth.
Yes, 100%. So I love it. I'm into it. I can't wait to watch this series. I'm going to be the bold one and say Oilers in 7 because I'd like to see a Canadian team win the Cup for the first time since 1993 when I was born. So I think it'd be cool. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't. The Panthers are really good. That's the thing. That's the thing. And I guess like Scotty kind of put out to me like who you starting in net for the Oilers. I'm going with Skinner. I got a good vibe with him. I've always liked Skinner, so I don't know. But thank you guys all so much for the questions. Thank you guys so much for it.
I'm so glad to be back. We're so glad to be back. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you guys want to check us out anymore, of course, you guys can hit us up on all the social media stuff on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. It is at XBombSports on Instagram and Twitter. It's facebook.com/XBombSports on Facebook as well. If you guys want to catch us anymore when we are streaming, I apologize, Scotty. I know I'm jumping around, making it all confusing for you. I apologize. You guys can check us out at youtube.com/XBombSports and, of course, at twitch.tv/XBombSports as well. And, again, for these questions and comments you guys send, thank you all so much. If you guys want to keep sending, I got a lot of them. We're going to go through some of the past ones. We're going to go through some of the current ones again. And we're going to keep doing this more and more as we keep going along. Send them again to xbsportsofficial@gmail.com. We appreciate it. We love it. Thank you guys all so much for this one. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get out of here. We're going to go home. I got to eat. We got to get ourselves going. You got one more thing, Scotty, or? Oh, okay. Sorry. I wasn't sure what that was. I also wasn't sure if he was giving me the finger or not. I don't know. I love you, though, Scotty. Thank you all for so much for what you do, amigo. I appreciate you so much, and I'm glad to finally see you again, too. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. We appreciate you. We love you. We will see you guys next week. And as always, much love. Peace out, Boom Crew.